Hi there, and welcome to HSE 101, Human Systems Engineering. My name is Russell Brannigan. I'll be your professor for this course. I thought I would take this first opportunity to walk through Canvas, which is the learning management system, the syllabus, and a discussion of research participation. So let's start with that. As you can see, this is a course in Canvas. If we go to the modules here, we should be able to see this first module under Welcome to HSE 101 called Syllabus for Spring. And here that comes up, and you can see again it's HSE 101. Here's the course description. It introduces the fundamentals, principles of methods in human systems engineering, or what we often call HSE. This includes human learning, memory, decision-making, emotion, and so forth, and how we apply that to design of products and processes and so forth. So, as you go through this class, you'll be learning an awful lot about human psychology and how that applies to the design of products, as well as processes and other things. You'll be able to describe research methods that we use in human systems engineering. You'll be able to understand the relationship between the body, the mind, human behavior, and mechanisms of things like sensation and perception and consciousness. You'll also be able to understand quite a bit of the concepts and processes of thinking, learning, memory, motivation, and emotion, especially those things as they relate to the design of products. You'll be able to discuss and understand the effects of stress and how that influences behavior, and just generally express how psychology is applied in real-world situations, especially when it comes to the design and development of products. To that end, we have two textbooks. One is by Don Norman. It's called The Design of Everyday Things, and the other is by Dull and Weirdmeester, and that is called Ergonomics for Beginners. Often you'll hear people refer to human systems engineering as ergonomics. For the most part, those two terms are interchangeable, and actually human systems engineering and human factors engineering are highly related as well. So sometimes you'll hear me use those two terms interchangeably. There are actually 4 online exams. That's how we handle grading for the most part in this course. Please be prepared to answer essay, short answer, and multiple choice questions during these. They'll be taken through Canvas, so it'll be online. I'll usually give you a couple days in order to complete the exam. However, once you start the exam, you will have 90 minutes to finish it after that. So while you'll have a few days in order to figure out when to get started and so forth, once you start, you really have to do it in one sitting of about 90 minutes. Usually you'll have enough time, that 90 minutes that is, should be plenty of time for you to finish these things. I will encourage you, however, to use course materials and the textbook, etc. during the test. It doesn't have to be closed book or anything of that sort, but please do not consult, other human beings. Basically, please try to test yourself just using the materials as you can. So here's the way grading works. There's really sort of three components. There's those exams that we just described. There's 4 of them, and those will be worth 50 points each for a total of 200 points. Then there is research participation. That is, you're required to participate in 3 experiments or write 3 papers. And in order to do that, you have to sign up for something called the SONA system. So it's a SONA system for research participation. So for each one of those papers or each one of those experiments that you signed up with, or each hour of experiment really, you will get 25 points for a total of 75 points. And then just for participating or signing up for the SONA system, you will get 5 points just for that. So in total, there's 280 points for us to achieve during this class. So if you get 98 to 100% of those, then you'll get an A+. If it's 90 to 91%, then you'll get an A-, etc., according to this table here. In here, you'll notice the list of topics that we'll cover. So right now, we're covering the Welcome to Class portion of it, we're doing a tour of Canvas. We'll discuss the syllabus and we'll discuss the subject pool and SONA. But then we'll move on as following days come by, and we will do an introduction to human systems engineering, research methods, sensation and perception, all of those kinds of things. The reading that you're responsible for are over here. So that's Don Norman's book, Chapter 1. That'll be Don Norman's book, Chapter 6, etc. And then the remainder is really related to standards that we have here at ASU, things like our codes of conduct, things related to Americans with Disabilities Act, non-discrimination, etc. Please take the time, sexual harassment, copyright, and so forth. Please take the time to read through that, as these are things we're all required to adhere to. Okay, so that gives us a brief overview of the syllabus, but please take a look at that when you can. And I'm going to go back here to modules. And I've talked about that syllabus. Next, I'll talk about the research participation credit. And to do that, I will click on Subject Pool Presentation Participants. And that will bring up this little presentation here. And as I've described, you are responsible for participating in research credit. That is, you have to complete 3 hours of this research credit by doing one of two things: participating in experiments that are held either on the Polytechnic campus or online. The length of each participation, basically the length of time, equals the number of hours of credit. So for example, if it's an experiment worth a half hour, well, that would only require a half hour worth of participation and you would receive 1/2 credit. If it's a 1 hour experiment, chances are it'll take you about an hour to complete it, and that will give you 1 credit. Your task is to accumulate 3 credits total by doing that. Now you have an alternative to this because you might not be able to make it to the Polytechnic campus and maybe there aren't online studies to do. In which case you could write a 350-word article summary of some papers that I've included in here, and each paper would be worth 1 credit. So you can mix and match these things. That is, you could do 2 experiments and 1 paper, 2 experiments, etc. in order to get your 3. So there's one other thing I should mention. There's actually an opportunity for extra credit here too. So you have the option of doing an extra 1 hour for extra credit. So that would give you a total of 4 credits. If that were the case, that extra credit would be worth an additional 15 points added to that 280 possible. So that's the way this kind of works. I'll mention a few other things about it. These are just tips. As the semester progresses, different experiments will show up in the SONA system. Please don't wait until the last week or 2 of the semester to try and get your 3 hours because there might not be enough available experiments during that time. I should also mention that there's an age restriction. That is, if you're under 18, you can't participate in the subject pool. Instead, please email Scotty Craig, that's scotty.craig@asu.edu, for an alternative approach to doing this. And then there's the penalties. If you happen to miss an experiment, this will happen every once in a while. A student won't show up. Maybe they've forgotten to participate or something of that sort. If you miss an experiment that you're scheduled for and you don't cancel it, you must replace it with a research paper. And those research papers are shown on the next slide. You can't replace it simply by participating in a different experiment. So for example, imagine you already have completed 1 hour of credit, but you end up missing an experiment. To earn the required 3 hours, now you must complete 1 paper and 1 experiment. Or alternatively, you could complete just 2 papers. But you can't simply sign up for another experiment to replace the one that you missed. There's sort of this penalty that at least one of these things has to be a paper. As I mentioned about those papers or alternatives to participating in the experiments, this is the way you go about doing it. You choose download, or you choose or download an article under the article summaries on Canvas. You'll read the report. You'll write up a report of about 350 words. Here are the descriptions of what we look for in there. You'll select the article summarized in the SONA system under View Available Studies. You'll click the link displayed. Then you'll paste your summary into the box. We'll take a look at it and review it and so forth. And once it's reviewed and is in good shape, then we will give you your credit. The deadline for doing this is the last Friday of the semester. at 11:59 p.m. So it's important to recognize this is the last day of the semester, last day of classes really, not the last week of finals. So it happens before finals, not during finals week. Here's what that SONA system looks like. It's important for you to know to go to this URL here. So it'll be ASUP for ASU Polytechnic, asup.sonasystems.com. And SONA Systems is sona-systems.com. If you find elsewhere, if you don't follow this particular URL is what I'm trying to say, you may very well end up at the Tempe Psychology site, and you won't be able to get in there because you're not taking a psychology class, you're taking a human systems engineering class. And as a result, always make sure that you go to this URL that I'm highlighting here, asup.sonasystems.com. Once you are there, click on this thing that I have highlighted over here that says Request Account. When you go to Request an Account, it'll pop up with this information. Please fill this information out. And when it says, let's see, what does it say? Courses, make sure you select the course that has my name associated with it, Brannigan. And then continue down here. When it comes time to signing up for a study, you will come back to ASUP SONA Systems. You'll be able to click here to view available studies, and you'll identify studies and be able to sign up for them. Okay, so here are those important dates. The subject pool will open the Monday of the second week of classes, so not this first week, but the Monday following this week. The subject pool will close on the last Friday of the semester. That is the last Friday of classes, not the end of finals week. And all hours and papers must be due by 11:59 at that time. If you have any problems, please email Scotty Craig at scotty.craig@asu.edu, and please include subject pool in the subject line. So hopefully that's helpful and sort of gets you through this research participation, how to go about doing it. Here is, let's see, if we go back to modules again, remember those articles that I was describing? Those articles are shown here. So this was, I think, Roediger and McDermott, who do a lot of work in memory. This is work by J.J. Gibson, who does a lot of, or did a lot of work, I should say, in sensation and perception. This is work by Albert Bandura, who does a lot of work in social and personality psychology. And this is work by Bransford and Johnson, who do a lot of work in memory as well, and learning and comprehension, I should say. So you can choose to summarize any of those 4 articles, and that will qualify. So let's see, that should be a good overview, well, an overview anyway, of what we'll be doing. In Canvas, as you can see, these additional modules represent mostly a week. So Introduction to Human Systems Engineering will be more or less our first week, Research Methods our second, and so forth. And we'll just go down this whole list and cover this information all the way till we get towards the end, Safety and Accident Prevention. So as we go through this, I am very much looking forward to working with you, and I'll look forward to talking to you again soon.